Present day, the day of the trial. The sharp clang of chains echoes off the stone walls as Caleb and I are escorted from our cold, dank cells to face what I can only guess will be a mockery of justice. I don't see why we even need to stand trial. Victor Draven could very well use his compulsion powers to make everyone agree my mate and I deserve to die. Is there any point in pretending we stand a chance? I'm tired of pretending already. The guards lead us through narrow, shadowed corridors that spill into a vast. As we step inside, the construction looms over us, its vaulted ceilings arching high above, cloaked in shadows that seem to seep into my soul. The air is heavy, musty with the scent of old incense and colder than the cells we just left, sending a shiver down my spine. All eyes are on us, a strange assembly of vampires and werewolves filling the pews of this sanctified hall-turned-courtroom. They murmur among themselves, their voices a dissonant blend of outrage, curiosity, and fear. Stained glass windows fragment the dim light, casting colorful, eerie patterns on the stone floor. At the front, where the altar once promised salvation, Victor Draven stands with a gavel in hand, his presence dominating the room. His eyes, cold and calculating, sweep over the crowd before settling on me with a chilling finality, so unlike the warm, enthusiastic looks he used to give me. I can't but feel betrayed. I trusted him. I'd grown fond of him. So did Lucien. Lucien, who I must stay strong for, I realize, as without him, his sister will probably be in danger, since their grandfather isn't the supporting ally he's made himself to look like. All Lucy ever wanted was to protect Alara. I have to get out of this so I can make sure she's okay. I owe that to him at least. But things aren't looking very promising. I spot Ethan, Ela, and Finn amongst the crowd, and to my surprise Leela. I murmur upon meeting my best friend's blue gaze. She waves at me, jumping to her feet and making her way towards me while I gape at her like a fish. What is she doing here? I can't believe Ethan let her come anywhere near so many vampires most likely hostile because of the attack on Lucien. His protective instincts always kept her away from the darker facets of pack life until now. I don't know how Leela managed it, but I'm touched and grateful to see her. As she reaches us with a grin, though not a very happy one, my vampire guard sneers at her, but she rolls her eyes, raising her hands in peace. Give us a second, she asks, serious and polite. We're from the same pack. She's like a sister to me. The vampire sighs but pauses in his trail, the one handling Caleb moving forward to the front without us. Selene, Leela says, smiling tightly as she takes my hands in hers. The touch of her hands is both comforting and startling. You have the worst taste in men, you know that. Leela, what are you doing here? I whisper, shock and relief making my voice tremble. Her hands squeeze mine, and a sharp pain jolts through me. I hold back a wince, feeling a small bead of blood welling up where her ring, a sharp, ornate piece I've never seen her wear before, has cut into my skin. Oh no, Leela smiles sheepishly. Are you on your period? You smell like you're bleeding. Doesn't she smell like she's bleeding? She adds to my vampire guard with an innocent smile. I sure hope you guys provided her with tampons. I mean, that's like a basic human right. My guard snarls at her, pushing her backwards under my stupefied gaze. What is she playing at? Also, why is Ethan still in his seat watching all of this unfold like he doesn't have a care in the world? Is he letting Leela speak to vampires alone? He doesn't even react as one of them touches her openly. Something's not right. Are he and Leela fighting? That can't be it. Even if they were, I doubt it would dampen Ethan's protective side. Leela offers me one more reassuring look before returning to her seat amidst the crowd. And I don't have time to think too long on what's going on, because as I arrive at the front of the church, Draven's voice booms through the space, declaring the trial open. We are here to uncover the truth behind the heinous acts against a noble of our community, he announces. His gaze, piercing, every word he speaks feels like a nail being driven into the coffin they've already prepared for me in their minds. The weight of Lucien's death presses heavily on me, the memory of his blue eyes, once filled with warmth and laughter, now extinguished, and with it, any fear of what might happen to me here. But I can't let my despair prevent me from letting the truth be known. My heart aches, not just for the loss of love, but for the justice he deserves. As Draven continues to speak, the veneer of his cultivated composure does nothing to mask the malevolence I now know he harbors. 2 months ago, This woman manipulated her way into my grandson Lucien's life and somehow convinced him to take her as his bride to weaken him with her werewolf blood, Draven says, as I only half listen to his obvious lies. Me manipulating Lucien, I snort. This man is the ultimate gaslighter. He's even worse than Caleb, and that's saying something. Acting like his shoulders are heavy with sorrow he doesn't even feel, like Lucien's death wasn't exactly what he wanted. I hate him. I never hated someone so strongly in my entire life. Selene couldn't have known her blood would affect Lucien in any way. Ethan objects, remarkably calm. The Accords clearly state we aren't allowed to tell other wolves about that. Draven's eyes briefly flash in annoyance before he schools his features into a more neutral and benevolent expression. Forgive me, Alpha Grey, but how do we know you haven't shared the information with her? He replies, deceptively polite. I want to strangle him. What is it you're implying here? Ethan replies. That I've betrayed the Accords and purposely sent someone from my pack to harm your grandson. His implications brought to light, probably too soon to sound plausible at this point of the trial. Draven is forced to back down. Of course not, he says, inclining his head in a gesture of appeasement. I have no doubt both our species are very much intent on keeping the peace between us. Ethan smiles at him tightly. Good, he says. But just in case there's still some doubt, I'm happy for you to use your powers on me, so I'm forced to tell the truth. I have nothing to hide. Beside him, Leela visibly tenses, clearly not particularly fond of the idea. That won't be necessary. We can trust each other without such drastic measures being put in place, can't we? Draven sounds so convincing, like he wants to keep the peace. I can't make sense of his actions. Draven's known as the vampire thanks to whom the Accords were signed, but I'm left to wonder what his intentions were in setting up this truce in the first place. I now highly doubt he did it out of the kindness of his heart. I know for a fact there's no humanity left behind his composed, eccentric, fatherly facade. So why did he set up the Accords, and white Rick his own grandson, probably his own daughter, into falling right into his trap? Why kill Lucien, and why use me on Caleb in the process? I can't make sense of it. Is he hoping to start a war? He seems to be careful in how he deals with Ethan. It doesn't look like he's eager to start a conflict with him. My mind is going in circles. Nothing makes sense anymore. Despite it, as Draven lays out the accusations, each word more absurd than the last, I steel myself. I may not care for my own fate, but for Lucien, for what we had and what Draven has taken away, I will fight. This trial, this farce will not go the way Draven intends. I resolve to unearth his deceit, to expose him for all to see, no matter the cost. Selene, he tells me, indicating for me to stand, we will now hear your deposition. I resist the urge to roll my eyes as I stand to face the room. How did you meet my grandson? Draven asks from behind me, making me tense. You introduced us, I replied ruthfully. You hired me to be his bodyguard. I hear Draven scoff. I did no such thing, he replies, crossing his arms. But you can't deny that there have been attempts made on Lucien's life before I started working for you. I argue, gaze drifting towards Serafina Blackwood. He'd been poisoned before, right? Lucien's mother frowns distrustfully. It's true, she agrees reluctantly. A vampire attempted to kidnap Lucien in the past, and sometime after that, he was poisoned. Draven, who's standing by her side, clenches his fists. Yes. Thank you, Serafina, he says, as intrigued murmurs echo amongst the crowd. But that doesn't change the fact that I didn't know Lucien at the time, I say, briefly meeting Leela's gaze for support. So, there was no reason for Caleb to be behind these attempts. It doesn't change the fact that everyone saw him bite Lucien 2 days ago, Draven replies curtly. All I'm saying is that people were after him, and you hired me to protect him, I snap, heart beating fast against my rib cage. I did no such thing, Draven insists calmly. I thought you were going to be his bride, and so did everyone here, since my grandson died the night your blood bond ceremony was to take place. I flinch, hands trembling. Surely if you'd only been there for his protection, you wouldn't have agreed to go through such a binding commitment. Draven drones on, unpitying. A blood bond is for life after all. Why would you agree to it if Lucien was just a job for you? I loved him, I gasp, betrayal and pain shaking my words. You know I did. We came to you together to tell you. You loved him, yet you never told him you were a werewolf. Because you told me I'm furious. You made me lie. You used your powers on me. Draven's eyes fix on me, briefly widen. I understand he hadn't expected me to tell everyone about how he used his compulsion on me. Did he expect that I wouldn't because he thought it would still be in effect? He sure looks stunned, that's for sure, which makes me wonder why isn't his compulsion still in effect then? In fact, why is it that I've been remembering all the times he'd used his powers on me when I hadn't been able to before? Something fierce and determined shines behind Raven's eyes, who's looking as dangerous as ever, a sinister expression descending upon his features. Enough of this, he snaps, waving at Caleb to come forward. He is your mate, is he not? And everyone saw him kill Lucien. Do you deny that you bit him? He asks Caleb. Caleb stands beside me, his posture resigned yet defiant. He doesn't meet my gaze, lost in his own turmoil or perhaps already defeated by the weight of his manipulated actions. My contempt for Draven deepens, a fiery blaze in the cold enclosure of my heart. Do you deny it? Draven repeats. No, Caleb's head sags in defeat. I bit him. Why? Because Caleb's eyes become vacant, and I realize he's saying something pre-rehearsed and probably not by him. I've been rejected from my pack, which has put a strain on Selene and I's relationship. I thought if I could convince you, Draven, to stop the increase of vampire attacks, it would get me back on my alpha's good side and back into the pack. I briefly meet Ethan's eyes, who look as dubious as I feel. Draven doesn't give us time to intervene. And you thought that harming my grandson would pressure me into helping? Caleb nods slowly, making the room burst into gasps again. I didn't mean to kill him. That was accidental. I thought I would only scare you enough that you'd be motivated to help us to prevent another attack. Draven clenches his fists dramatically, feigning an emotional anger I know for a fact he doesn't feel. Beside him, his daughter is shaking in anger too, though I don't know how sincere that is. She jumps to her feet, voice cracking. How dare you, she screams, pointing her finger at Caleb. We've been respecting the accords for years, and this is how you repay us. She buries her face into her hands, her shoulders shaking in silent sobs. I purse my lips. If this is an act, then it's rather good. Did Selene know about your intentions? Draven asks Caleb, unrelenting. She did. She didn't like it because she cared about Lucien, but Selene's my mate. Our bond will always come first, no matter what. Caleb's eyes drift towards me, and he adds, nailing the coffin, she forgave me for harming her best friend. She forgave me for trying to kill our alpha, and she forgives me for killing a vampire she'd grown slightly fond of but who could never compare to me, and what we have in her heart. Hearing those words, I scream in rage and plunge towards him, arms out, ready to strangle him. I can't even hear what's going on around us anymore. All my focus is on Caleb. I want to make him pay for what he just said and how close to the truth it is. The toxicity of our relationship rings raw behind his hurtful words. I'm hit with the ugliness of what lies between us, what has been eating at me for years. It's all very close to the truth, except for one thing. I loved him. I yell, tears blurring my vision as strong arms hold me back, preventing me from hurting Caleb. I loved him more than I've ever loved you, and if I could give your life to get him back, I wouldn't hesitate for a second, you sorry piece of. Enough. Draven shouts, making everyone effectively fall silent, to the point where I wonder if he hasn't perhaps used his powers to make it happen. He confessed to his crime. My grandson is dead. This trial is over. I demand that the werewolves make amends by allowing Caleb's execution and Selene's lifelong imprisonment. My breath catches in my throat as Caleb's gaze meets mine. I may hate that we're bonded and hate what he's done, but I've never wanted him dead. And, more importantly, I wasn't expecting I'd be allowed to live. I realized I'd been rather hoping for the relief of death. My heart is in shambles, and I'm tired of all of this. I have no reason left to live. Take me instead, I murmur, closing my eyes. I don't want to do this anymore. I object. Leela's voice booms across the room, making my eyes snap back open. She's standing amongst the crowd, a determined look upon her features. Finn and Deela are staring at her and Ethan in turn, probably wondering what she's doing and if her mate is in on it. Ethan's blank expression doesn't give anything away. You object? Draven lets out a stunned laugh. To what, exactly? Leela frowns at him, undeterred. To all of this, she replies, waving her hand around the room. To her credit, she manages to stun Lucien's evil grandfather silent for a second there. I'm sorry, who are you? He ends up saying, slightly confused. Leela, she answers, before pointing to me. Selene's best friend. Serafina intervenes, sending Leela a disdainful glare. Nobody cares who you are. My son is dead. Yeah. About that, Leela says, looking at her nails. Is he, really? I freeze upon hearing her words. What is she doing? I know her, and I'm sure she has something in mind, for despite how it looks, she isn't actually insane. But, or is she perhaps under a vampire's control to be behaving so strangely? Also, why isn't Ethan saying anything? Of course he is, Draven snaps. Are you unwell, girl? What are we here for if not his demise? Your little friends here saw him. Your own mates saw him. Yeah. I don't know, man, Leela pouts. Selene was probably distraught. Ethan's got terrible eyesight. And Finn and Deela, she smirks at them. For sure, they were too busy arguing to check if Lucien was, properly dead. My jaw drops at the sheer ridiculousness of this statement. And I don't think it's the only one that does. Draven's eyebrows are raised so high you'd think they're about to fly off his face. Seraphina's eyes are so wide she looks like a cartoon character. Meanwhile, Finn and Deela are trying to make Leela sit back down, and Ethan is still completely unresponsive. All I'm saying is, Leela concludes, who's to say you vampires haven't, faked the guy's death to stir up trouble with us? You're the ones that have been attacking humans for months now and breaking the accords. Suspiciously convenient that, in the middle of that, your vampire prince dies. She concludes by putting air quotes around that last word. Sounds to me like the perfect excuse to get you all off the hook, just saying. Draven is pinching the bridge of his nose, looking like he's about ready to implode. Around the room, though, a couple of werewolves have started speaking amongst themselves, doubt and suspicion crossing their features to my stunned amazement. I demand that you show us the body again, Leela says, challenging lie. For, in the famous words of the wise and all-knowing Taylor Swift, no body, no crime. If Draven's eyes could fall out of their sockets, they would have. Did she just quote a pop star to make a point? I hear Leela whisper to Finn, who elbows her in the stomach. Show us the body, he insists instead, getting to his feet beside Leela. We all want to see it, right everyone? All the werewolves present in the church erupt into agreement, looking highly agitated, like they actually believe the vampires won't be able to comply with this request. Unfortunately for them, I know this isn't the case very well. Draven sighs with a roll of the eyes. Bring Lucien's body here. He orders some of his staff as they leave through a side door to comply with this request. Agitation slowly eases away, the murmurs around us tapering off into silence, anticipation and dread mingling in the cold air of the church. My heart pounds painfully in my chest, each beat a stark reminder of the grim reality I'm about to face again. The heavy doors at the rear creak open, and two of Draven's people enter solemnly, carrying between them an open coffin. I can barely stand to look at it. First, they set it down gently at the feet of the altar amidst waves of shocked gasps. Lucien lies there, his features serene, almost as if merely asleep. His pale skin contrasts starkly with the rich, dark velvet lining of the coffin. His black hair, always so carelessly perfect, fans out around his head like a dark halo, waves catching the dim light, casting shadows that play off his peaceful expression. The sight destroys what little courage and hope my poor heart still held into numb nothingness. He looks untouched by death, beautiful and still, as though at any moment he might draw a breath and sit up, flashing his charming, mischievous smile at me again. But the stillness of his body is a silent scream in the quiet church, tearing through me with a ferocity that is unbearable. Around me, I can hear the soft sounds of pity and whispered sorrow from the crowd, their earlier animosity forgotten in the face of such poignant finality. But the tears that well up in my eyes are born of a pain far deeper than their fleeting sympathies can fathom. Lucien, I choke, feeling faint. I take a step forward instinctively, yearning to touch him, as if the contact could somehow fill the lifeless void he's left behind. Satisfied, Draven asks Leela with an impatient grimace. May I check the body from up close? She replies, batting her eyelashes innocently. No offense, but he's a vampire. If you guys lay down and close your eyes, you all look like corpses from a certain distance. Offended protests are heard from the vampire area of the church, but Draven just sighs in resolve, waving my friend over to the front. Fine, he says. Proceed. Leela practically skips over there with so much bounce to her step, you'd think she was going shopping. Wow, she says, eyes widening slightly as she bends down over Lucien's coffin to get a better look at him. That is one attractive minus-looking man. Good on you, Selene, she adds, giving me a wink. Are you quite done? Draven snaps impatiently. Of course not. I haven't even tickled him yet, Leela snaps back, rolling her eyes. You can always tell if someone's faking sleep by tickling them, she tells the crowd. True story. Are you mocking our pain? Sarfina exclaims, fury lacing her words. How dare you come here? Oh my God, Leela exclaims in horror, jumping up in fear and pointing to something at the back of the church. What is that? And while everyone is busy instinctively checking towards the direction she'd been pointing at, she reveals a small vial hidden beneath her sleeve and promptly shoves its content between Lucien's parted lips. What did you just give him? Draven screeches, taking a menacing step towards her, making Leela smirk. Fuck if I know, she replies, though I'm sure we'll find out any second. She glances back down at Lucien, and I follow her gaze, eyes settling on his peaceful face. However, he doesn't remain peaceful much longer, for this is when his eyes snap open, and he gasps, sitting up abruptly into a seated position, his shoulders sagging in relief upon seeing Leela beside him. I drop to my knees, head spinning from the shock, the fear, the hope, the pain. His blue eyes quickly scan the room before settling onto me, and a slow, loving smile grazes Lucien's lips, stealing the breath right out of my lungs. Selene, he whispers, sounding so heart-clenchingly relieved. You'd think I was the one who'd just come back from the dead. Cries of stupor erupt around the church, and even Draven is stunned speechless, staring at his very alive grandson in almost comical stupor. Oh, look, Leela comments in a bored tone. He's alive. Wow, who would have thought? Lucien's eyes reluctantly move away from me to settle on my friend. I instantly miss his gaze, almost like in my mind, he can't be alive if he isn't looking right at me to prove me wrong. Thank you, Leela, Lucien tells her with a small incline of the head. You did good. Oh, it was nothing, my best friend replies, sarcasm lacing her words. And then she swings her arm back and socks my newly resuscitated lover right in the jaw. 3 days ago, Leela's point of view. I toss and turn, moving from one side of the bed to the other for the 10th time in 5 minutes. I keep telling my body to relax, but there's no use, as every single one of my muscles feels pent up with tense energy. I check my phone again and frown upon finding I still have no message. It's past 1 in the morning now. I can't believe I'm stuck here at home while Ethan is out, God knows where with Finn and Deela, doing God knows what. He wouldn't even tell me where they were going and had kept things as purposely vague as he could, telling me off in that firm tone that never fails to make me want to smack him. Who does he think I am? A 5-year-old? I throw a pillow across the room, huffing in annoyance. I may have only recently turned into a werewolf, unlike literally every other one we know, but that doesn't mean I'm some helpless child ill-equipped to leave the house. Kind and patient reassurance surges from our bond, an effort from Ethan to make me feel better, but I'm too upset with him to appreciate it, and I concentrate on slamming our mental connection shut for the time being. He absolutely hates it when I do, and I hope it makes him feel as miserable as I do. If only Selene was around to distract me, but I've been to her room several times and she's nowhere to be found. I realize I haven't seen her very much these past weeks, or make that these past few months. I haven't seen her much ever since Ethan and I have been bonded. This bond is turning me into a shitty friend on top of a controlling, paranoid girlfriend. Bonds suck. Another good hour passes by, and sleep has yet to claim me when I hear the familiar sound of a car parking near the house. Even from here, I hear Ethan's voice from below as he enters the house, whispering to Finn and Deela, opening back my bond with Ethan, only to be assailed by overwhelming distress and anger, which I can tell isn't aimed at me. I jump out of bed, rushing outside our bedroom and hallway down the stairs. What happened? I ask, fearing the worst. Ethan's eyes snap upwards towards me, his shoulders sagging briefly as they meet mine. Beside him, Finn opens his mouth to tell me something, his face somber enough for me to know something isn't right, but Ethan shuts him up with a look and steps forward towards me. When he's mere inches away, I debate whether to bury myself in his arms, which I know he'd like nothing more, but I resist, resentment at having been left behind again still vivid. I need to speak to you alone, Ethan sighs, sounding resigned. He leads me back to our bedroom, slowly closing the door beside us. Where were you tonight? I ask, crossing my arms defensively. Don't even try to pretend everything is fine. Ethan looks slightly exasperated, something I'm used to when we're together, But then his features become impassive, and an alarmingly vacant look replaces his usually warm gaze. He's staring at me like I'm a stranger. I don't think he ever looked at me with so much detachment, even when we barely knew each other. I can't stand the sight of it. Ethan? I ask hesitantly. I search our bond, tugging at our connection in fear, but Ethan's side is eerily calm, peaceful even, in a way that's similar to when he is asleep. Hello, Leela, he says in a blank tone that has me rolling my eyes in frustration. Yes, hi, can we get on with I begin? You don't remember ever meeting me, but I know you, and I need your help. My name is Lucien Blackwood. I jump back in shock, which probably looks comical but doesn't feel like it as I try to assess Ethan's gaze. Is he joking? You must be wondering what is happening. Ethan goes on, still in that strange, absent tone. Please don't be alarmed. I approach him cautiously and wave a hand in front of his eyes which remain fixed ahead, empty of recognition. My heart pounds painfully against my rib cage. Ethan, please, I shake his shoulders. What's happening? Tell me what's wrong. Don't worry about your mate. I'm sorry I had to use him to pass this message on to you, but there was no other way. Rest assured, he's perfectly fine. Let him go, I snap, taking Ethan's face into my hands. I want him to look at me with all the love I've carefully allowed myself to grow used to, the absence of which feels like a slap to the face. Leela, you must listen to me now. This man who looks like Ethan but clearly isn't him commands. What did he say his name was? Lucien Blackwood. That sounds vaguely familiar. Selene is in danger, and if we're going to save her, I'm going to need your help. I step away like I've been burnt. I can't stand to touch Ethan right now when he isn't himself. And what's this about Selene? 6 hours ago, Selene's mate Caleb attacked us during our blood-bond ceremony. This is too much information for me at once, and I'm left blinking stupidly. Selene isn't mated with Caleb anymore, I protest. And what's a blood ceremony? In case you're wondering, Lucien continues, like he cannot hear me, Selene is still bonded to Caleb. She's been hiding it from you and everyone else because she's ashamed and scared of how you'll react. That does sound like Selene, I tell myself with a wince. About 2 months ago, she started working for my grandfather, the vampire king Victor Draven. He hired her to be my bodyguard in secret, and nobody knew that's what she was apart from him, me, and Selene, who had to pose as my bride during her mission. But the truth is that this job he hired her for was all a pretext for my grandfather to get rid of me for good. He wants me dead. And if you're hearing this message, then I guess it means he's gotten his wish. Wait, I protest, frowning as I try to take all of this in. Are you saying you're dead? I'm about to tell you something no one can know until the right moment, and it's going to be crucial that you do everything in your power to get to that right moment, Leela. Selene's life depends on it, so does mine, though you might not care much about that. I scoff. He's not wrong, but if Selene needs me then I better listen carefully to what this guy is going to say. Just in case this isn't a bad joke. Right now, everyone, and I do mean everyone, including Selene, your pack, and my grandfather believe me to be dead. But I'm very much alive, or I will be once you do what I say, which I hope you will, because there's a very good chance Selene will be executed as punishment if you don't. Right. I wince. No pressure. You must go to this address. Ethan takes out his phone to type in said address and send it to my number. Inside the left bathroom stall, behind a loose brick, you'll find a small potion bottle my sister Alara left for you earlier today. Retrieve it, and keep it hidden. Then, on the day of Selene's trial, you'll need to retrieve some of her blood. A drop will suffice. Put it inside the bottle. You'll then use it to wake me up. It'll only work if you've added a drop of Selene's blood to the potion. Don't forget, and don't tell anyone. The less people know about this, the better. My grandfather has the power to make you tell him information if he wishes. If you think me taking control of your mate like this is scary, believe me, he can do much worse. I shake my head in disbelief. All of this sounds perfectly insane, but most importantly, I won't be able to leave then, I argue, and you can bet he's never going to let me come to a trial full of vampires, not without me telling him the truth, at the very least, which will be nearly impossible for me to hide from him anyway. Because my message is reaching its end, Lucien says, I'm counting on you, Leela. Oh, and one last thing. From what Selene tells me, your mate is quite protective of you, so I've compelled him to comply with all of your requests until the end of the trial. In fact, after this message is over, he'll be going to sleep, so you may go and retrieve the potion immediately. Good luck, and if anything goes awry, your priority is of course to protect Selene from my grandfather. Leave me behind if that means keeping her safe. However, please, if my sister reaches out to you for help, consider granting it to her. I'm sure Selene will support this demand. I hope to meet you in person soon, Leela." And on these last words, before I can ask anything more, Ethan blinks back to awareness. I'm so relieved to see him smiling warmly that I briefly forget about the impending nightmare I was in a second ago to bury my nose into his chest. "Ethan," I was so worried. I sigh as his arms tighten around me. I breathe him in, his scent making me elated. His fingers, slowly running through my hair, make me feel safe again, and I'm left wondering if I imagine the entire story about vampires and death and potions. Something crazy just happened, like insane C-5 movie type of shit, I tell him, stepping away to look at him. Ethan blinks blearily at me, weariness overcoming his curiosity. "You started talking nonsense about Selene in a blood bond ceremony," I say, my voice trembling with the weight of what I've just heard. Ethan yawns before slowly nodding for me to continue, except he's swaying on his feet, which is highly suspicious. "Are you okay?" I ask him, stress coming back to me full force. "What?" "Oh, fine here," Ethan replies, blinking a couple of times. A little tired." I curse silently, to which he doesn't even react. That Lucien guy did mention he'd be going to sleep. Guess I hadn't been dreaming, I realize with dread as our unpleasant reality catches up to me. "Ethan," I snap my fingers in front of his face, hoping to stir him. "Stay with me, okay? This is important." He nods, sagging against me to the point where I'm forced to help him sit on our bed to keep him upright. Just out of curiosity, I ask him, worry twisting my gut, "How would you feel if I were to accompany you to Selene's trial with all the vampires you've been very careful not to tell me about the last few weeks?" Ethan's eyes slowly fall shut. "Whatever you want, darling," he sighs right before his head collapses onto a pillow. I watch his features relax into an unnatural slumber I have no doubt I couldn't wake him from if I tried. Will he even wake up if I don't get Lucien Blackwood's stupid potion thing? Damn it, I'm going to have to do exactly what he asked me to do, aren't I? So I guess no make-up sex, then, I mutter, furious as I watch my unknowing mate's eye peacefully in his sleep. Present day at the trial. "Oh," Lucien whines, grasping at his jaw, sending Leela a wounded look. I rush towards them, miraculously uninterrupted, and wrap my arms around Lucien's shoulder, afraid that this is all too good to be true. Lucien pulls me closer, and I feel his body trembling against mine slightly. "It's okay," Lucien tells me, cradling my head. "I deserved that." "Heck yeah, you did. You mind-minus controlling fuck," Leela screeches, stomping her foot. "Now snap Ethan out of it, or I'm forbidding Selene from seeing you again." Startled, my gaze snaps to Leela's face, which looks irritated beyond words. "What happened to Ethan?" I ask. Beside me, Lucien noticeably winces. "I kind of had to make him let Leela come here today," he confesses, looking slightly regretful, and even more so when he catches Leela's furious gaze. Using my powers on him a little bit. But he was going to be back to normal even if you fail to bring me back to life. "Leela, I promise," he assures her, raising his hands in appeasement as she looks ready to punch him again. "You used your powers on Ethan?" I ask, confused before an image of Lucien greeting him at the ball and leading him towards the balcony flashes before my eyes. "Wait, so you knew this would happen?" My mind is reeling from all the implications. Victor Draven's voice interrupts, booming across the walls of the church like a warning. "I can't believe you're alive." He extends his arms out to Lucien, like he intends to hug him, making his grandson recoil in horror. "Yeah, no shit," Lucien replies with a sneer, "seeing how you're the one who's been trying to kill me this entire time." Draven chuckles light-heartedly, though there's a nervous edge to it. "I don't know what Selene's been telling you, son," he defends, "but I assure you, I have nothing but your best interest at heart." Beside him, Serafina's gaze is traveling back and forth between her father and her son, disbelief and stupor marking her features. "Lucien," she murmurs softly, are you all right?" He rolls his eyes at her, though I can tell he is slightly touched at her obvious concern despite their broken relationship. "She's still family, I suppose." "I'm fine, mother," he replies in a bored tone. "You won't be if you don't fix Ethan right this second," Leela sneers. "Oh, Right, sorry. Lucien's gaze travels through the crowd until they settle on Ethan. You're free to stop obeying me now, he says, making Ethan blink slowly and look around him, like he's only just become aware of where he is. Finn and Dila are sending him worried looks, which he promptly ignores, gaze snapping towards Leela and narrowing in anger. What the hell are you doing here, Leela? He growls, sounding like he's about to commit a homicide. She beams at him in response, shoulders sagging in obvious relief before giving him the finger. Yeah. Okay, Finn scratches his throat. So, how is the vampire alive? 'Cause we kind of all entertained Leela before, but none of us really thought he'd actually wake up. No offense, Leela. Well, Lucien slowly steadies himself. I knew Draven here was going to use Caleb to get rid of me, so I used my powers on him and instructed him to only pretend to bite me while ingesting a potion that would make it look like I was dead for a while. Lucien, what are you saying? Serafina says, cajoling lie. Your grandfather adores you. He looks out for our family. No, he doesn't. He looks out for his own interests, namely making sure none of us figures out how he's managed to earn and maintain so much power over the years. Serafina frowns, sending her father a careful glance. Father? She asks, suspicion slowly grazing her features. He's the one who's orchestrated all the attempts on my life the previous months. Lucien intervenes, pointing at his grandfather before he can get a word in. Also that I'd agree to have a bodyguard he intended for me to fall for and from a blood bond with, without anyone knowing she was a werewolf. Draven rolls his eyes, though his posture becomes increasingly defensive. And why would I do that? He replies. If I wanted you dead, why go through all this trouble? Lucien snorts, sending him an affronted look. That's a good question actually, Lily observes, right as Ethan arrives to drag her away from the scene, something she allows him to do with surprisingly little protest. She must have been worried for him, I realize, watching her bury her nose into his neck as he cradles her into his arms. Well, go on then, Draven edges on, thinking he's won this argument. Why would I bother planning all of this little scenario, making you fall for Selene as you say, instead of simply killing you myself if I wanted you dead? The same reason I can't kill you right now, Lucien replies cautiously, because you needed Selene's blood to make me mortal, for me to stay dead. 3 weeks ago, Lucien's point of view. I enter my sister's room without knocking, something she detests, which earns me a shoe thrown right at my face that I easily dodge. Stupid vampire reflexes, Elara grunts, sending me a dark look. Love you too, my darling baby sister, I reply, opening my arms towards her in an invitation she royally ignores. I sure as hell wasn't as impertinent when I was 15, I tease, throwing myself on Elara's bed. You were high all the time when you were 15, she replies, applying a new dose of foundation to her face carefully before turning towards me again. What do you think? She asks in a neutral tone I know for a fact is hiding a well of insecurities. You don't need all this makeup, I tell her sincerely. You're beautiful. Half of my face is burned, Lucien. I look like one of the villains from Superman. You mean Batman. Whatever. You know who I meant, my sister replies with a pout. When she was little, my mother tried to have her killed by setting the house she had been kept in on fire. I hadn't been there at the time, and Elara had only made it out alive thanks to our grandfather, who I'd been grateful to ever since for saving her life, which had made it all the more terrible when I'd figured out the man was out to get me. About 6 years ago, Elara and I had thought we could trust him, unlike our mother, but he was just as cruel and cunning as she was, perhaps even more so. For at least Serafina never pretended to care about Elara like Victor had. She cares about you though, Elara always argued, resentment lacing her words. I don't bother arguing with her about it anymore. It only aggravates her further, and I guess she's right in the sense that at least Serafina never tried to kill me. How do I look? I ask her instead, getting to my feet so she can inspect my outfit more thoroughly. Like a male model, as always, she rolls her eyes. Why? Do you have a hot date or something? She snorts at the idea. To be fair, in this lifetime, she hasn't seen me in a relationship, yet and take the concept of me in one very seriously. I'm meeting the love of my life tonight, I tell her, feeling no less nervous over the prospect than the last 3 times I'd met Selene for the first time again. I want to make a good impression though, I sigh to myself. The only impression I can afford to make is one that precisely matches Victor's expectations, so as not to raise his suspicions. By some miracle, he hasn't realized I've come back to life for the 4th time now, And if I want Alara, Selene, and me to escape this hell of a gilded cage alive, I better make damn sure it stays that way. And I'm going to need to act like I'm perfectly indifferent and dismissive of Selene, like I had the first time I'd met her, while she responds with all the kindness and grace I don't deserve to my petty jabs. The love of your life, Alara snorts. Is that a code name for a hooker? She's not a hooker, I snapped offensively. She's my future wife. You mean bride? I mean, wife. I begin to pace around the room. I intend to be her husband and equal, not her master. I sneer at the word, anticipation racing through me as I check my watch. Tonight? Alara asks, curious. No, not tonight. I need her to fall in love with me again first. Alara shakes her head in confusion. What are you talking about? What do you mean again? I clench my fist, tension and stress glowing at me hard enough that I can't resist unburdening myself, if only for a short while. You know how some vampire families have special abilities? I ask Alara. You mean like those European guys who could grow wings and fly? Yes, I beam at her. Well, we can't do that, but when we die, we don't stay dead. Yeah, okay, Lucien, that's pretty much what any vampire can do. I roll my eyes. I mean, even when we die as vampires, we don't stay dead. Alara frowns as she searches my expression for any trace of humor. She finds none. Wait, what? She asks, doubt lacing her words. I've died before, as a vampire, I explain, meeting her gaze and trying to imprint the look on her face in my mind to give me strength later on, even when Alara will have forgotten this entire conversation. I fell in love with the girl. She was posing as my bride. It was all just pretend at first, until it wasn't anymore, and I started drinking from her. I'm pretty sure she loved me back, but I could tell she had secrets. I didn't mind, thinking that in time she'd grow to trust me and share them, and maybe she would have, except we ran out of time. One day we're outside a diner, and this guy comes up to us. He gets angry with her, claiming she betrayed him by running away from him, and she belonged to him as his mate. I clench my fists as the scumbag's face, twisted in pathetic anger, comes back to me. His mate? Alara's eyes widen. Shifters have mates, she exclaims immediately, because she was always much more clever than I am. Precisely, I tell her. Your girl's a shifter. Alara's eyes sparkle in interest. That's cool. I didn't know that's what she was, nor what it implied, but I learned it the hard way, I explain with a sigh. The guy attacked Selene, started choking her. I told him to stop. I thought he would, you know, since people generally do what I tell them and all. Yeah, your compulsion powers are insane. I know, you show mine off. Well, they didn't work that night. I close my eyes. I remember Selene's life extinguishing from her eyes, her body collapsing to the ground. He killed her in front of me, I tell Alara, and then, when I tried to intervene, he pushed me under a passing car. I snort. He doesn't know it, but the bastard saved my life. How? I died, I explain, remembering the pain coursing through my body, and then I woke up to years in the past on the day I became a vampire. Alara gapes at me for a few seconds. What? She asks, shaking her head in disbelief. Yuri, are you kidding me? Oh, I wish. I begin pacing the room again, remembering the days that followed my awakening, the confusion and fear, the suspicion. How could this happen? Why was I back in time? What was I meant to do? How come no one suspected I could do this? I did my research and realized this ability was a gift our entire bloodline shared, and precisely the reason why our dear old Pops had acquired so much power over the years. If anyone managed to betray or kill him, he'd just wake up in the past and set things up to defeat his enemies the second time around. Does Mom know about this? Alara asks, taking this surprisingly well. I doubt it. I think Victor wants to make sure no one but him knows about this to ensure he manages to keep the upper hand at all times. Is that why he wants you dead? Alara asks. Because he knows you know. No, if he knew that I knew, I wouldn't be here. He wouldn't take any chances and bide his time like he's doing now. He thinks I don't know and that he can get me killed right under everyone's nose, pinning it on the werewolves, on Selene specifically. The second time I'd met Selene, I'd been tempted to tell her everything from the start. How I knew about her wolf and her mate, but I'd realized my grandfather seemed intent on nobody finding out, so I couldn't let him onto the fact that I did know without him growing suspicious and understanding he was losing the upper hand. Whatever plan he had, I needed to understand. And then it hit me. When Selene's mate attacked her, my powers had stopped working. It wasn't long before I figured out a werewolf's blood could essentially make a vampire mortal again, I explained to Alara. So, Alara snaps her fingers, a habit she has when she tries to think. Grandfather wanted you to unknowingly drink from the shifter to make you mortal again because this would prevent you from coming back to life and figuring out the family's secret. I snapped my fingers back at Alara. This would kill two birds with one stone, get rid of me and have the obvious victim take the blame. But why does he want you dead so much? Alara frowns. I thought he cared about us. He cares about his power and influence, Alara, I snap, ignoring the sharp betrayal I feel upon the thought. He's been alive for centuries. He doesn't remember ever having feelings. He's just good at faking them. And he hates that everyone is pressuring him into making me the heir, especially as my powers are proving to be as strong as his. He can't stand it. That's stupid, Lucien. Alara rolls her eyes. You don't even want his title. Men like him don't understand that. He thinks I'll stab him in the back eventually because that's exactly what he'd do. So, what's the plan here exactly? Let everything play out the way he planned, just like you have before. I know how he gets me killed and when, but this time I'll ensure I'm not deadened and mask him publicly. Okay, Alara nods bravely. How can I help? I pull her into a hug. Forget this entire conversation. Forget I was here. Go to sleep, I tell her, feeling her sag against me. I doctor back home in a daze, worry clenching my every nerve. I was acting brave earlier with Alara, but I have no idea if what I'm planning is even going to work. I don't know what happened after my death from Caleb's bite at the bull. All I know is that I can't stay trapped in this loop forever, and I can't risk just letting myself be killed without ensuring Selene's safety from both Caleb and my grandfather. She's tied to this now. If anything, I have to make sure she is safe. I'll wait in my room, resigning myself to change into my pajamas instead of keeping a more fitting outfit, as I know my grandfather doesn't think I expect any visitors tonight. There's someone I'd like you to meet, he tells me with a kind, patient smile I now abhor seeing on his face, for it used to bring me so much comfort that it only hurts all the more now that I know the truth. And the truth is that this man I cared for and looked up to never held any love for me. All right, I reply, walking unhurriedly towards the living space I know she's in, when I'd like nothing more than to run, break the door open, sweep Selene up in my arms, and never let her go. Instead, I push the door open, try to ignore how her wide green eyes bring as much joy as they do pain at the idea of losing her again, and declare in a bored tone I hope she doesn't see right through. Good evening, whatever your name is, shall we? Present day at the trial. Draven visibly pales, clenching his jaw. Around us, a series of questions erupt in the church, and not just amongst the werewolf crowd. The vampires look curious and apprehensive too, sending each other questioning glances that remain unanswered as Draven's silence stretches. It's over, Lucien says, pulling me behind him as he backs his grandfather into a corner. I'm not sure I understand fully yet. Your secret's out. How many times? Draven asks, staring Lucien down. This is my fourth, he replies, making me frown in confusion. And you lost? Draven sighs, before claiming nobody moves. And similarly to the night Lucien had used his powers on the crowd in Vincent Moretti's club, the entire population inside the church freezes into still silence. What are you going to do? Lucien taunts, a smirk grazing his lips. Kill everyone here. Oh no, Draven replies, though frowning upon realizing his command had taken hold of him. I'm just going to kill you, once I make sure you've drunk enough of Selene's blood to stay dead this time, erase everyone's mind, and then pick right where we left off. Ambitious, Lucien replies, moving us backwards. We both know I can do it. Your powers are growing impressively quickly, but you can't outmatch me yet, son. Not when you're weak and haven't had any blood for days at least. You can't stop me. Oh, I wasn't going to, Lucien replies. Selene will. Draven frowns, gaze snapping towards me. Huh? Me? I exclaim, before realizing that I can speak and move, something that shouldn't be possible upon Draven using his powers on all of us. You know what happens to a vampire's bride once the blood ceremony is done, Selene? Lucien asks me, watching his grandfather grit his teeth in obvious displeasure. Go ahead and tell me. I know you're dying too. I reply, trailing his grandfather's movement with my eyes to anticipate a potential attack. The bride becomes immune to every vampire's compulsion powers but her bonded, Lucien explains, patting me on the shoulder, and since I've ensured we both be bonded before our ceremony, in case it was interrupted too soon, he winks as Draven's face decomposes into a snarl. That means you're the only human in the entire world who's immune to my grandfather's powers, and you're a werewolf with superpowered strength who knows how to fight. Lucien grins. Now, isn't that convenient? Draven snarls and Rajan jumps back, waving a hand towards a group of his vampire staff, currently frozen in time. You three, he shouts, his voice snapping them back into awareness. Get rid of her. I take a step towards the group of vampires moving to attack, dodging a first blow before kicking my attacker to the stomach. Selene, we can't let my grandfather escape, Lucien says, pointing towards Draven's retreating figure. I grunt, twisting a second vampire's hand and spinning him to the ground. You know, now's probably a good time as any to tell you that I'm useless in a physical fight. Lucien confesses as one of his grandfather's minions tries to land a punch to his face before I stop him by throwing myself onto his back. I know, Lucien, I sigh, tackling his assailant to the ground. Well, get on with it then. He's getting away, Lucien urges, pointing towards a back door. But don't kill him. We need him alive. If he dies, he'll come back from the dead and ruin everything. What? I exclaim, running after Draven through a crowd of frozen people. Yeah, that's the big family secret. When we die, we wake up on the day we first became vampires. Lucien shouts as I jump to grab Draven's legs, making him fall to the ground around with a grunt. He pulls a knife from under him and aims to plunge it into his neck, but I hold his wrist, trying to pull him off. And this happened to you? I ask, trying to stay focused on Draven and the knife. You've died before. Yes, 4 times. We've actually met before, you and I. You, Draven interrupts, addressing the row of frozen vampires beside us. Stop her. I manage to steal the knife out of his hand just in time to parry a blow coming from my right. I throw my elbow back into Draven's stomach, making him groan and fall to his knees before I begin fighting off a new small crowd of vampires. Lucien, I warn, briefly catching his gaze, I'm not going to be able to fight off an entire church full of people. He nods, making his way towards us as quickly as he can. A vampire grabs me by the shoulders, immobilizing me long enough for another to punch my nose, making me grunt. Meanwhile, Lucien has managed to reach his grandfather, and is now doing his best to pin him to the ground, which is obviously a struggle in his weakened state. Use your powers on him, I yell, kicking an incoming vampire in the jaw. He's stronger than me, Lucien replies, wincing as Draven head butts him in the nose. I should have killed you on the day you were born. The man sneers before Lucien slams his head onto the ground. You can do it, Lucien, I urge. Come on. I manage to get rid of the last vampire on the prowl and plunge to Lucien's aid, wrapping one arm around Draven's shoulders to immobilize him, and the other against his mouth to prevent him from speaking. He struggles, but I am a werewolf and, by nature, much stronger than him. Make him wake everybody up, I tell Lucien, sending him an encouraging look, or, to start with, the werewolves. Lucien purses his lips, looking his grandfather in the eye. You heard her. Wake them up, he says. Draven sneers at him, trying to move away, but I hold him in place. I don't think it's working, Lucien says, nose starting to bleed. Try again. Wake them up, Lucien insists, right as Draven bites into my hand, making me gasp. Right at this moment, one of the vampires I'd knocked out throws himself at me, making me let go of Draven. The knife Draven had held before is in his hand, descending right upon me as the vampire aims for my heart. Wake everybody up, now, Lucien barks, panic-lacing his words. Wake up. All of you, Draven says, freezing my attacker in his movement. The knife only grazes my skin as he blinks away. I let out a sigh of relief, catching Lucien's terrified gaze. His shoulders slowly sag in relief as he realizes the entire room is coming back to their senses, and most importantly, my life is no longer in danger. Go to sleep, he tells Draven, who instantly collapses onto the ground. What just happened? I hear a say from somewhere at the back. I don't pay any attention to the many questions echoing around the room, throwing myself in Lucien's arms, pure relief coursing through my veins. I help him back to his feet as he clenches his head in pain, the use of his powers having taken a heavy toll on him. Despite it, he smiles softly at me and announces to everyone in the room, pointing towards his grandfather. Case in point, he tried to kill me. And then he lets out a quick, barely audible sigh and, removing his eyes from Draven to settle them onto my face, he adds, court dismissed. Present day, 2 weeks after the trial. I take a deep breath and brace myself to leave our house, where the party is currently going full swing. Beside me, Lucien stands, looking around the room in awe, a hand placed firmly against my back, the other pulling on his sister's arm to prevent her from grabbing a drink from the refreshment table. Oh no. You don't, he snaps, earning himself an annoyed glance. You're not even 16th, you don't get to drink until another 2 years. You mean 5? I ask, momentarily distracted from the upcoming difficult conversation I'm about to have. We grew up in Europe. 18 will do. Not in this country it won't, Lucien rolls his eyes. Okay, then it won't, he replies suspiciously innocently before adding, for Ilara's sake at least be more discreet about it. Ilara, for crying out loud, says the guy who used to snort coke. Lucien puts his hand on her mouth to shut her up. Jesus, sis, not in front of the N- laws. They still hate me for using my powers on one of them, remember? I snort. They don't hate you, I tease, smiling at Ethan from across the room. He looks like he's about to head over to us, but Leela pulls him back, sending Lucien a murderous glare. Well, they don't all hate you, I correct with a small laugh. Oh, thanks for your support, Lucien grits out between his teeth. I feel so much better. I roll my eyes at him. I'll speak to Leela when I get back, all right? I tell him, squeezing his arm. She'll come around, I promise. Lucien frowns, watching his sister walk off to give Leela a warm hug. Traitor, he mutters under his breath before snapping his eyes back to me. Shall we? I nod. I tried to tell Lucien that I wanted to do this alone, but he'd categorically refused. And I didn't blame him. In the days following Victor Draven's arrest, he told me all about the previous lifetimes we shared, including the one in which Caleb had killed me in front of him, the memory of which had left a bitter mark upon Lucien. We walk side by side into the woods, silence settling between us, though not an uncomfortable one. I stop once we reach a familiar tree trunk which had been cut years ago when I was still a little girl. This used to be my favorite place growing up, one I would escape to when the pressures of the pack became too much, so pretty much every day. He should be here soon, I'd tell Lucien, and just like I'd expected, we don't wait more than a couple of minutes before Caleb emerges from the branches against the backdrop of the night. What is he doing here? He snarls upon seeing Lucien. This is between you and me, I reply, stepping in front of Lucien, just in case Caleb had it in mind to attack. Leave him out of it. You leave him out of it, Caleb, I warn, calm down. He sends me a slightly startled look but purses his lips and says nothing else, waiting for me to speak. I have something to ask you, I tell him, making him scoff. Then why would I do anything for you? He replies as Lucien tenses behind me. I send him a warning glance and turn back to Caleb. It's a simple request. You don't have to grant it, I tell him patiently, though I prefer it if you did. But keep in mind that I intend to live my life far away from you, even if you don't. You mean you want to be with him? Caleb asks, disgust painted all over his features. I do want to be with Lucien, I replied ruthfully, but he isn't the reason why I want things to be over between us. I want nothing to do with you, even if it wasn't for Lucien. Caleb rolls his eyes in disbelief. Really, he says, ready to add probably another bunch of hurtful words, but I don't care to hear them. I've heard enough for an entire lifetime, if not more. I would like you to reject our bond, Caleb, I tell him, making him grind his teeth. No, you don't. I assure you I do. He crosses his arms defensively. Then do it yourself. I can't, I answer, meeting his gaze. And don't think that's because I still have feelings for you. I can't break our bond because the separation will make you go feral, and you'll end up killing me and, more importantly, anyone who'll stand in your way. I won't have it. Caleb's eyebrows shoot up in surprise. He looks taken aback for a moment. Though, is he surprised? Faint? I'll never know, and I'm guessing what he means and what he doesn't. It's not my problem anymore. I wouldn't kill you, he protests, looking troubled at the idea. Yeah, you would, I swallow, throat a little tight before pursuing. I've seen it happen with magic, and deep down you know you would. Last time I broke our bond, you went so insane you were willing to go after Ethan and Leela. Ethan and Leela, aren't you? Caleb protests, though doubt is creeping behind his eyes. I wouldn't hurt you. But you already hurt me, I reply, shutting him off multiple times. And frankly, Caleb, I'm done telling myself I deserve it. I don't. Your issues aren't mine to bear. You're the one responsible for them. He opens his mouth, ready to retort his favorite argument, but I raise my finger and interrupt. And don't even try mentioning Mira. I'm sorry about Mira. I'll never forgive myself for it, but me hurting her knew the right to hurt me for the rest of our lives. If that's how you feel, then surely you understand why we can't be together. Caleb's gaze meets mine. It's funny how those eyes used to make me go weak at the knees, first out of love, then out of fear. It's funny how now I feel nothing at all. If you break our bond, it'll be easier for you to keep calm and survive the separation I go on. I'd like you to do it. I'm asking you to, but whether you do or don't, this is the last time I'm ever speaking to you again. A bond between us won't change my decision. I'll leave the choice up to you. Lucien and I walk off, hand in hand, under Caleb's scrutinizing gaze upon our backs. I feel it all the way back to the house, in which I finally let my shoulders sag. Do you think he'll do it? Lucien asks, squeezing my hand encouragingly. I shrug my shoulders, a little shaken still from the altercation, though much less than I thought I would. I hope so, but I meant what I said. If he doesn't, it won't change a thing. I'll keep the connection between us shut until the rest of our days. If he does, though, I meet Lucien's blue gaze, which becomes slightly inquisitive. I may need your help for a little while, I confess, hoping he'll understand. I may not love him anymore, but a bond is still a bond, and it's difficult to break. I half expect Lucien to protest or feel hurt, but he smiles at me patiently. Good thing I can bite you into feeling better, then, he replies, wiggling his eyebrows, though there's only tenderness and care in his eyes. I laugh. It's you I need, Lucien, I tell him, your love and presence. He pulls me into his arms, kissing my forehead. Then you shall have it, my Selene. He takes my face into his hands, pulling me towards him for a kiss, which I'm eager to grant him, when my eyes catch a familiar silhouette outside in the gardens. Oh my God, I gasp, moving away from Lucien to get a better look. What is she doing here? Silver Nocturne, the witch who'd granted my wish a few weeks back, is walking around the grounds, an expectant look on her face. I'll be right back, I tell Lucien, walking over to her and ignoring his protests. The witch isn't paying attention to me but doesn't seem surprised as I appear in her field of vision. Hello, Selene, Silver says. Silver, I exclaim, realizing I don't entirely know why I felt the urge to go and greet her. Are you here to see me? No, she replies, looking like she isn't going to add anything else, but because I remain in my place staring her down, she looks at me again and smiles. You're still alive. That's good. Yes. Maybe this is why I wanted to speak with her, I realize, as I'm about to speak the words, confirmation that everything was going to be okay. I think I may have found a loophole to escape my fate. Fate cannot be changed. Silver shrugs, indifferent. Though if you're worried about your mate killing you, you shouldn't. It already happened. You simply don't remember it. You mean when Lucien died and went back into the past as a result? I ask, furrowing my brows. Silver nods. When do you think your redhead friend is going to make her wish? She asks me, an impatient look marking her features. If she doesn't do it soon, I'm going to have to take drastic measures. My eyes snap inside the house, where Ela is busy talking to an alpha from another pack. What do you mean, drastic measures? I ask worriedly. I mean that I'll grant something she desires strongly enough without waiting for her to ask, Silver says, looking at her feet. I'm being rather pressured into it, you see. Again. I'm not sure what she means. Would it work if she really wanted, I don't know, a bowl of spaghetti? Silver purses her lips, the shadow of a smile wanting to appear but not quite getting there, I suppose. Okay, well, I'll speak to her, I promise Silver before walking back to the house. I wouldn't want Tila to unknowingly wish for something problematic, and have it granted to her out of nowhere, which, unfortunately for us, was precisely what would happen. Although I wouldn't figure it out for a little while longer. What was that about? Lucien asks me as I arrive back beside him, patient concern grazing his features. I know he'll respect it, and won't insist should I refuse to tell him. I'm suddenly so very grateful for having him in my life that I don't know what to do with it. I love you, you know, I settle on telling him, making him smile. I do know he smiles, but it's nice to hear it. And then, the feel of a heavy weight being lifted from my very soul surges through me, making me feel easy and elated. Confused about what just happened, before it clicks into place. I think Caleb just rejected our bond, I tell Lucien, throwing myself into his arms. I'm free. I await the pain and desolation that comes with the severance to hit me full swing, but Lucien presses his lips onto mine, and to my amazement, it never comes. Thank you for listening. If this story touched your heart, give it a like and subscribe for more beautiful tales. Tap the next thumbnail to continue your journey.